Previously on DJ Red. The cabin walls shook as the howls drew closer. A pack of wolves, starved, desperate, more bone than fur, circled in the blizzard. The group braced for impact. Gunfire lit the snow, blood steaming against the drifts. One by one, the wolves dropped, until silence returned. But not peace. From the tree line came something worse. A wolf that didn't bleed right, its flesh hanging in strips, eyes burning with that dead light. It lunged, and though they brought it down, Nick staggered back screaming, blood running down his arm. A bite. The storm swallowed the echo of his cries as everyone realized things just changed forever. The cabin smelled of smoke and iron. The fire had burned low, coals glowing red, their heat the only steady thing in the room. Outside, the wind howled through the trees beyond, not a tunnel, a winter storm pressing against the boards of the cabin. Inside, everyone's focus was on Nick. His arm was a ruin, mangled from the wolf attack. Blood soaked the rags they had tried to wrap it with, and his face was pale, sweat slick. Despite the freezing air, his breathing came in shallow gasps. The chemist had just finished laying it out for Todd. Voice calm but urgent, like a teacher explaining steps in a lab. You've got one shot to do this clean. Cut fast, just above the joint. Don't hesitate, or he won't survive the blood loss. Amber stood closest, her hands trembling, but her jaw set tight. She passed Todd the glowing hot hatchet, its edge shimmering orange from the fire. The light painted Todd's face in harsh, flickering lines, making him look more grim executioner than savior. Ready? The chemist asked. His tone was low, but there was no mistaking the weight in it. Ed and Amber pressed down on Nick's shoulders, pinning him against the mattress. The chemist gripped Nick's good arm and chest, bracing his body so he wouldn't thrash when the pain hit. Nick's eyes fluttered open, panic flashing as he realized what was about to happen. His cracked lips moved, a broken whisper escaping. Don't, please. Before his voice was swallowed by the storm outside, Todd tightened his grip on the hatchet, the heat radiating into his palm. He looked once at the ruined arm, then at Nick's face, then back to the glowing edge. Nigh the cabin, the lantern light flickered over rough-hewn walls, casting shadows that twitched with every gust of wind squeezing through the tunnel. Nick sat slumped in the chair, his face pale, sweat streaking down his temples as the others held him steady. The ragged wolf bite had torn deep into his arm, and Todd knew there wasn't a choice left. He set his jaw, muttered a prayer under his breath, and raised the hatchet. The steel bit down fast, one clean motion followed by the sharp, gut-deep sound of wood meeting meat and bone. Nick's scream ripped through the cabin, echoing down the stone tunnel beyond. Blood hit the floorboards in dark spatters before they cinched the tourniquet tight, fighting to keep him from bleeding out. The pain proved too much. Nick's body went slack, his head falling against his chest, unconscious but alive for now. Todd let out a heavy breath, his hands trembling as he dropped the hatchet onto the plank floor. It landed with a dull thud. He leaned back, dug into his pocket, and struck a match. The sharp smell of sulfur cut through the coppery air before fading into tobacco smoke as he lit a home-rolled cigarette. The glow of the ember briefly lit his weary face, his eyes staring at nothing while the storm outside howled on. The chemist's words cut through the howling of the storm outside, his voice steady but urgent. We can keep him breathing and keep the bleeding under control, he says, gesturing to the wounded man. But without real medicine, antibiotics, disinfectants, proper bandages, he's not gonna last. A day, maybe two at best. We need a pharmacy, Walgreens, CVS, Walmart, anything. If we're lucky, some shelves haven't been picked clean. The tension in the room thickens. Everyone knows what going out means. The blizzard outside screams against the boarded windows, but beneath its roar lies a more dangerous silence, the possibility of Devon's militia prowling the streets, watching for any sign of life. The chemist adjusts his glasses, grimacing. The storm's our best cover. The wind will muffle the sound of our footsteps, our doors opening, even gunfire if it comes to that. But once we're out there, we can't stay long. And if we're spotted, Devon's men won't hesitate. Your crew glances at one another. The wounded men groan softly, reminding everyone that time is slipping fast. Supplies are limited. The chemist has stabilized him, but it's like patching a dam with duct tape, temporary at best. The choice hangs heavy in the air. Risk the whiteout storm and Devon's watchful militia for the slim chance of finding an untouched pharmacy, or stay inside, knowing the man likely won't survive without what's out there. The fire Ed sets in front of the Yugo's hood crackles and smokes, the heat slowly seeping into the metal. Every couple of minutes he tosses on another scrap of pallet wood and cardboard to keep the warmth steady. The faint smell of antifreeze lingers in the frozen air as the tiny engine fights off the cold. Inside, the chemist stays crouched near Nick, carefully checking the bandaged arm. He mutters under his breath about circulation, infection, and blood loss, half to himself, half to reassure Amber that Nick isn't about to slip away. He props Nick's arm up, loosens the dressing a touch, and pours a tiny trickle of melted snow water mixed with iodine over the wound. "This is about as clean as we're gonna get out here," he says. Amber keeps busy, sliding tins of food and bags of dried goods into a burlap sack, double-checking the pistols and the handful of magazines they've scrounged. She's tense, every noise from outside making her glance toward the door. Todd pulls a tarp off the ammo crate, checking the shotgun and loading shells into the side loops of his vest. He doesn't say much, just gives Amber a nod now and then when she hands him something worth carrying. Ed, after stoking the fire, joins in with a grin and a grunt, tossing canned goods into a pack, like it's just another day at camp. "Old girl's gonna cough her way awake soon," he says about the Yugo, giving the hood a thump with a mittened hand. By the time the little car is warmed enough to try, their gear stacked and ready. Weapons are loaded, food's packed tight, and Nick's as stable as he's going to get for the trip. The only thing left now is turning the key. Ed jams that first key in, jiggles it around like an idiot, and when nothing happens he slaps the dash. Well, that's it, she's dead. Then the light bulb flickers. Aw, hell, wrong damn key. He fishes out the right one, pops it in, and the old beater roars to life, like it never had a problem in the world. The trip down the tunnel road is where it all goes to hell. The asphalt's a sheet of glass, snow packed tight, black ice everywhere. Ed grips the wheel with both hands, muttering, "Don't you dare embarrass me now." 10 feet later, whip. The car spins into a perfect 360. Food wrappers, empty soda bottles, a half-busted VHS player, and one of Ed's grape juice wine bottles go flying across the cabin like confetti. He's spinning, wide-eyed, and instead of panic, he just starts screaming, "Yeehaw!" It's a carnival ride. When the car finally skids to a halt sideways in the road, steam rising from the tires, who's standing dead ahead in the snow? Mr. Nibbles, just chilling, looking at Ed like, "Really, motherfucker?" Ed slaps the steering wheel, leans out the window, and yells, "Really? Nibbles? Really? Out of all the times to come creeping out the snow, you picked this moment? Damn honey badgers got better timing than my ex-wife." Mr. Nibbles doesn't budge, just blinks at him, tail flicking, like he's silently roasting Ed for existing. The car's half-cocked sideways, Ed's pissed, and the only thing breaking the tension is Ed muttering, yeah, laugh it up, you little bastard. I swear, one of these days you're gonna get me killed." A blur of fur slipped in through the open back window. Mr. Nibbles, teeth flashing and eyes wild, pounced straight onto the cup holder, snatching up the half-eaten, semi-frozen Slim Jim Ed had been saving for later. "Hey, damn it, that was mine," Ed barked, almost spilling his coffee. He glared at the honey badger, who was now gnawing happily in the back seat, stringy meat dangling from its jaws. Ed's expression softened as quick as it flared. He sighed, shaking his head. "I can't even be mad at you, little critter." "Fine, but you owe me one." Todd, riding shotgun, leaned forward suddenly and shouted, "Whoa, a deer." Ed jerked the wheel instinctively. Tires screamed against the ice, the Yugo fishtailing before bouncing hard off the edge of a snow-packed curve. For a heart-stopping moment, the whole car launched through the air like something straight out of the Dukes of Hazzard. The landing rattled bones and teeth alike, but by some miracle, the car rolled back onto its wheels in one piece. Everyone sat frozen for a beat, the only sound the wheeze of the engine, and Mr. Nibbles happily crunching his prize. "Well," Ed muttered, staring out at the snow where his driver's side mirror used to be. Guess we didn't need that anyway. From the back, Amber let out a shaky laugh. She brushed hair out of her eyes and pointed past the tree line. I grew up near here, she said. Couple miles down, there's a Walgreens with a pharmacy. If we're lucky, it might still have what we need. The car went quiet again, everyone letting that sink in. Supplies, medicine, hope. Even Ed, grumpy as he was, tightened his grip on the wheel with the spark of determination. Snow whipped against the windshield as the Corolla's wipers fought a losing battle, smearing more than they cleared. The hum of the heater was the only steady sound beneath the crunch of tires on black ice. Ed hunched forward, squinting through the frosty glass, both hands gripping the wheel like a man guiding a ship through a storm. Todd sat rigid in the passenger seat, scanning the roadside like a hawk, while Amber leaned slightly forward from the back, her voice calm but firm whenever the car's tires twitched on a patch of slick ice. They rolled past a crumbling McDonald's, the golden arches bent and rusting, a crooked drive-through open late sign barely hanging on by a bolt. The inside was gutted, windows smashed, chairs overturned, fryer baskets rusted in place. As they passed the side lot, Ed flicked on the blinker. The turn signal clicked. Ed, Todd said, narrowing his eyes. Ed turned the wheel, lining up with the drive-through entrance like muscle memory taking over. Figure we could swing by, grab some nuggets. Todd snapped. What the fuck, man? Ed froze, hand halfway to the shifter, then laughed awkwardly. Oh, right. End of the world. No nuggets. Got it. He clicked the blinker off and kept rolling, muttering under his breath. Would have killed for a Big Mac, though. Amber cracked a smile. The first in hours. Well, I guess some habits die harder than the rest. The car crept back onto the main road, snow hissing under the tires. Just a few blocks later, they turned into the Walgreens lot. The fluorescent sign was shattered, one letter barely flickering blue against the night. Glass glittered across the asphalt, catching the headlights like a frozen sea. The front doors hung wide open, one bent nearly off its hinges. The inside was black except for faint beams of moonlight glinting off empty shelves. Wind howled through the broken windows, carrying a low, eerie whistle. Ed eased the car to a stop. His missing driver's side mirror made the vehicle look even scrappier in the glow of the snow. Well, Todd muttered, hand on his pistol grip. Empty or not, a pharmacy's worth the risk. Amber leaned forward, her eyes locked on the shadowed entry. I used to shop here before everything went bad. Even if it's picked over, there might still be something in the back. Painkillers, bandages, hell, even a bottle of cough syrup could be useful. Ed shut off the engine. For a moment, the storm's howl filled the car, pressing in on them. Then Mr. Nibbles, sitting happily on the back seat, let out a chittering noise, as if egging them on. Guess that's our green light, Todd said with a grim grin, pushing the door open into the swirling snow. The wind howled against the busted glass, pushing snow through the Walgreens ruined entrance as Todd motioned them inside. The automatic doors hung crooked on their tracks, one side jammed halfway shut, the other dangling by bent metal. A faint stench of mold, old medicine, and something sour lingered in the cold air. Mr. Nibbles hopped up onto Ed's shoulder the second his boots crunched past the threshold, tiny claws digging into his jacket for balance. Ed winced, but instead of shoving him off, he just muttered, "Guess you're my co-pilot, little critter," and let him cling there like a furry pirate's parrot. Todd scanned the aisles, his Glock raised, shoulders tight. "Split up," he ordered, voice low but firm. "We don't waste time. Ed, grab whatever over-the-counter meds you can. Painkillers, disinfectants, bandages. Amber, the pharmacy's in the back, see if anything locked up survived the looters. I'll check the aisles and stockroom for movement. If anything's breathing in here, I'll find it before it finds us." Amber gave a quick nod, brushing snow out of her hair. "Got it." Her voice was steady, but her eyes kept darting toward the darkened pharmacy counter. Ed glanced at Todd, then at the honey badger latched into his coat. "Yeah, all right. Me and my partner here are on Tylenol duty." He patted Mr. Nibbles, who growled at the gesture but stayed put. Don't worry, boss. We'll bring back all the Flintstones vitamins and Bengay you could ever want. Todd just shot him a flat look before disappearing down the nearest aisle, boots squeaking on the dirty tile. Amber slipped past the registers, flashlight in hand, edging toward the chained metal gate that had once protected the prescription counter. Its lock had already been snapped clean off, but the gate itself hung awkwardly, like someone had tried to rip it open and gave up. Ed shuffled toward the first aid aisle, muttering to himself as he stuffed a cracked plastic basket with whatever hadn't been water damaged or scattered on the floor. Half-open boxes of bandages, 2 dusty bottles of rubbing alcohol, a few packs of gauze. Mr. Nibbles hopped down into the basket and started nosing through the pile, pulling out a semi-crushed bottle of generic acetaminophen like it was treasure. In the silence, the wind whistled through the broken windows, and the creaks of the collapsing building carried through the aisles. Somewhere toward the back, something metallic clattered, a shelf tipping, or maybe a boot against loose debris. Todd's voice came sharp and low from across the store. Eyes up. We're not alone. The sudden crack thud of boots slamming into the back door echoed through the Walgreens, rattling the half-empty shelves. The snowstorm outside muffled, but the jolt reverberated through the building. Ed, wide-eyed, dropped the basket of gauze and Tylenol he was carrying and dove behind the nearest thing he could find, a sun-faded cardboard cutout of Shaquille O'Neal, still smiling like he was about to sell someone on life insurance. The thing wobbled under Ed's weight as he pressed against it, whispering hoarsely, "Earthquake! Everybody down!" Todd snapped his head toward him, voice sharp but hushed. "Shut up, Ed. This ain't no damn earthquake. Someone's breaking in." Mr. Nibbles, still perched on Ed's shoulder, puffed up and let out a guttural growl that didn't sound like it belonged to a small critter at all. Amber froze halfway to the pharmacy door, her pry bar raised in one hand, eyes flicking toward Todd for direction. The back door groaned again, metal bending against the relentless boots. Whoever it was wasn't giving up. Todd moved quick, crouching low, shotgun raised. His voice cut through the tension, low and commanding. "Amber, hold position. Ed, if you so much as sneeze, I'll let Shaq do the talking for you. Everyone quiet. We don't know if it's scavengers or worse." The door hinge gave a final screech, metal ripping against metal, and then a shadow spilled into the dimly lit pharmacy. Heavy footsteps crunched glass. Ed's whisper carried from behind Shaq, trembling but hopeful. "What if it's just like a delivery guy?" Todd didn't even turn. "Then pray to God he brought more than fries, 'cause this ain't no McDonald's run." The figure stepped fully into view now, snow clinging to a ragged coat, a glint of steel in one hand, and the Walgreens, once dead quiet except for the storm outside, felt like it was about to explode. The back door bursts inward with the crack of splintered wood, snow blowing in behind it. The shape in the doorway is unmistakable, Devin Cassidy himself, stomping through the frame like he owns it. The man's arm is sleeved in ink, bold lines twisting over muscle. His scalp shines bald under the fluorescents that still flicker overhead, his glasses catching the faint light, one lens hovering over a ragged scar that cuts down behind the frame. He looks like some unholy mix of Mr. Clean and a bouncer from hell. Flanking him are 2 shadows. On the left, Mickey, the knife Redburn, who, despite the name, looks like he'd sooner pass out from stage fright than stab anybody. He clutches a switchblade with hands that tremble so bad it looks like he's trying to stir soup. His eyes dart nervously around, trying hard to look mean, but landing somewhere between constipated and terrified. On the right is a walking nightmare, a man in a ballistic face shield, reflective visor hiding everything, double-barreled, sawed off in each hand, like something out of a fever dream. His silence alone feels more dangerous than anything Mickey could ever muster. Devin steps forward, boots thudding on the tile, voice cutting across the Walgreens like a whip. Well, what do we have here? Looks like our spotters were right. A ragtag group of misfits in a battered piece of shit car, creeping through my town. The words hang heavy in the air, Todd's jaw tightening. Amber frozen mid-step near the pharmacy door. Ed crouched low behind a cardboard cutout of Shaquille O'Neal holding a life insurance pamphlet. Mr. Nibbles, claw sunk into Ed's shoulder, hisses with perfect timing like even the honey badger knows they're in way over their heads. Devon's voice thundered through the hollow aisles of Walgreens, rattling against the half-empty shelves like a bad sermon. His boots planted firm in the linoleum, Scar glinting under the fluorescence that still half-flickered alive. Mickey, the knife Redburn squeaked from behind him, pointing with a trembling hand. "B-boss, that one's got a rat or some kinda swamp ferret sittin' on his shoulder. Please don't make me go near that one, beggin' ya." Ed, frozen behind the cardboard Shaquille O'Neal, whispered loud enough for everyone to hear. "Earthquake. Big one." "Shut the fuck up," Todd snapped in a low growl, Glock steady, eyes never leaving Devon. Devon swung his scarred head to Mickey, and his voice cracked like a whip. "Shut it, knife lord above. Jesus Christ, you sound like a toddler asking for his mama." His gaze shifted to the rest of the group, lip curling. "Now, what the fuck is taking Joey and Ralph so goddamn long?" The man in the ballistic face shield stayed silent, breathing through his mask like some unholy Darth Vader. Both sawed-off shotguns hanging loose but ready. The weight of his presence made the room feel smaller. Devon spat on the floor, boots crunching over it as he stepped closer. "Anyways," he grinned, but it wasn't warm, it was mean, dead in the eyes. "I'm here to kill two of you. Nice and simple. Then the one we let live? They're gonna lead us straight to whatever shithole cave or busted up grocery store you've been calling home. And when they do," his grin widened, scar pulling ugly against his cheek, "we kill the rest. Every last one." He leaned forward, voice dropping to a gravel hiss. "You killed poor Francis Packey and his boys back at the Peking. Couldn't stand his wild eye, but he was like family to me. And family gets avenged." Amber hands tightened around the crowbar she'd found behind the counter. Todd raised his pistol a little higher, and even Ed stopped muttering about earthquakes. Mr. Nibbles, claws buried into Ed's jacket, hissed low and mean. The Walgreens had gone, still, like a match waiting for the strike. The wagon screeched across the tile as it burst through the kicked-in back door, half-tipped on its side, slamming into the racks of half-empty shelves. Plastic bottles of cheap shampoo and ibuprofen clattered to the floor, scattering across the Walgreens. The wagon itself was dripping. Thick, dark blood smeared its sides. 2 shredded militia patches slapped to the frame like a calling card. Joey's and Ralph's. Devon froze mid-rant, scar tightening across his bald head as his eyes narrowed behind those glasses. His men jerked at the sound. Mickey the knife let out a whimper and raised his little blade like it'd do anything, while the faceless shotgun man just tilted his head slightly, both barrels lowering. Amber had her pribber raised halfway to the pharmacy cage when she stopped dead, lips tight. Todd shifted his grip on the rifle, his voice low and tight. They didn't shove that wagon in themselves. Something or someone did it for him. The whole store suddenly felt colder. The wagon dripped another thick splatter onto the linoleum. Devon snarled, voice cracking loud to cover the nerves bubbling in his crew. "Joey, Ralph, quit screwing around." Silence. Just the dripping. Ed, crouched behind Shaq's smiling cardboard face, whispered, "Earthquake got him." Todd hissed back, never taking his eyes off the wagon. "Ed, shut up. Stay sharp." The air was heavy with that awful in-between moment before the next horror revealed itself. The faceless man with the shotgun jerked violently as the bullet cracked through his skull, splitting the plastic shield like glass, spraying blood and bone across the cereal aisle. He toppled without a word, body hitting the floor with a weighty thud that echoed through the Walgreens. Mickey the knife let out a scream, high, ugly, like an animal caught in a trap. He dropped his knife, scrambled back on his heels, palms slick on the tile. Devon's scar twitched as his eyes went wide. Shit, not this again. Without hesitation, he spun and sprinted, boots hammering down the aisle. He raised his pistol, emptied 2 wild shots into the front window, spiderwebbing the glass, then dove through its shoulder first with the crash shards raining around him as he tumbled into the night. Mickey the knife crawled after him, sobbing, but froze halfway, his hands trembling as his eyes darted from the corpse of the shotgun man to the blood-stained wagon, to the shattered window Devon had just disappeared through. Amber Pribber shook in her grip, Todd's knuckles whitened on the rifle, and from outside past the broken front window, the faint echo of boots on pavement. Calm, measured, getting closer. Mickey the knife shrieked like a stuck pig as the hockey mask slammed into him, both of them crashing into an overturned shelf of pill bottles. Plastic rattled and skittered across the linoleum while the masked man straddled him, one massive hand clamping around Mickey's wrist, the other prying his own knife from his trembling fingers. Mickey squealed, thrashing uselessly, piss soaking through his jeans. And no, man, I didn't mean it, I didn't. The hockey mask didn't answer. The red line smeared across it caught the fluorescent light, making it look like fresh blood. He dragged the blade across Mickey's chest slow, deliberate, not enough to cut deep, just enough to make him squirm and cry harder. The man in the suit strode inside. Behind him, his boots clicking neatly on the Walgreens tile. His rifle gleamed, absurdly pristine, every gold flourish and diamond plate catching the dim light like treasure stolen from another lifetime. He wasn't rushed, wasn't tense. He set the rifle casually against the counter, tugged his jacket smooth, and surveyed the scene like a man inspecting merchandise. Todd's voice was low, tight. Shit, looks like our day just got a lot worse. Amber swallowed hard, eyes locked on the suit. Who the fuck are these guys? The suited man's smile was small, practiced, and cold. That depends on who's asking. Mickey screamed again as the hockey mask dragged the blade closer to his throat. But the suit only sighed, as though embarrassed by the noise. He plucked a prescription bottle off the shelf, turned it in his hand, then glanced at you and Todd with bored eyes. You're standing in the wrong pharmacy, he said. The Yugo's engine coughed and rattled like it was going to die before it even moved. But Devin didn't hesitate. He ripped it out of the lot, tires squealing against cracked pavement, shattered glass crunching under its wheels. Todd's rifle bounced against the seat, forgotten in the back as Devin hunched low over the wheel, face pale, leering, fuck this, over and over while the car sputtered into the distance. The sound of the engine dwindled, leaving the station thick with tension. Inside, everything slowed. Knife was still crouched in the corner, piss soaking through his pants, a puddle creeping out under him as he whimpered. Todd muttered through clenched teeth, shit, looks like our day just got worse. His eyes were locked on the back door. That's when they came in. The first was a hulking figure, broad shoulders wrapped in a blood-soaked lumberjack shirt, tattered acu pants tucked into mud-stained boots. His hockey mask was splattered and cracked, two jagged red lines painted down the cheeks, like war paint. He carried an AK with a drum magazine that looked like it could cut the whole room in half in seconds. The second man was a sharp contrast, stepping in behind him almost casually. His suit was wrong for the world to find, too deliberate. Black fabric threaded with deep crimson designs, a few white curls woven in like smoke. It gleamed in the weak light as if it hadn't known dirt, blood, or hunger. Resting against his shoulder was a gold-plated .45-70 lever action, diamond etchings catching what little light filtered through the broken windows. The rifle looked like a relic from some museum, not a weapon meant for this rotting world. Todd's gut twisted. He could tell instantly they weren't just scavengers. These were the kind of men who enjoyed showing up late, walking into the aftermath, and deciding who lived long enough to regret it. The man in the hockey mask said nothing. He didn't have to. His boots thudded across the tile, each step shaking knife, until the smaller man broke. Wait, I didn't do anything. Knife scrambled up, his legs giving out under him, and bolted toward the shelves, slipping in his own piss. He didn't make it 3 steps. The masked man lunged, moving faster than anyone his size should have, and slammed Knife down onto the tile with a crash that echoed through the hollow store. Knife's scream was strangled, his arms flailing, fingernails scraping against broken linoleum. The EK clattered against the masked man's side as he pinned Knife with a knee to the chest. Knife's voice cracked. Please, I didn't do anything. The gold rifle man simply watched, almost amused, adjusting his cuff as though waiting for a show. Todd gripped the handle of his pistol tight, but his mouth went dry. He glanced at you, panic flickering in his eyes. Shit, Todd muttered again, voice low and hoarse. Looks like our day just got a lot worse. The room was now divided, Devon's dust trail fading beyond the broken windows, Knife shrieking under the weight of the hockey-masked brute, and the rest of you standing in the crosshairs of two men who clearly didn't care who had been here first. The silence that followed was heavier than the gunfire had ever been. The smell of cordite still hung in the air as Devon's figure disappeared into the night, the Yugo sputtering away with Todd's rifle bouncing around in the back seat. The sound of its crappy muffler faded, leaving only the wet drip of rain through the broken storefront and the faint hum of wind sliding over jagged glass. Everyone left inside was frozen for a moment, processing the chaos. Knife screams turned into a high-pitched wheeze as the man in the hockey mask slammed him down. The mask's red streaks glistened under the dim lantern light, his breath heavy and raspy behind it. Knife's chest heaved once, twice, and then he seized, went pale, and stiffened. His body gave a final twitch, a puddle spreading beneath him, dead of fear before the man had even raised his AK. The masked man stared down at him, then let out a frustrated growl. "Damn it," he spat, smacking Knife's limp shoulder with the back of his glove. "I expected more from the puny one." Ed peeked up from behind his Shaquille O'Neal life insurance cutout, squinting. His voice cracked with nervous disbelief. "Not to sound ungrateful, but you look like a straight-up psycho." The masked man chuckled low at first, then rolling into a hearty laugh that echoed off the ruined walls. "Yep," he said proudly, adjusting the drum mag in his AK. "That's what they call me." Next to him, the man in the ornate suit stepped forward with deliberate calm, the gold and diamond gleam of his lever action catching even the weak lantern light. He moved with the kind of confidence that made Todd's hand twitch near his holster. But instead of raising the weapon, the man extended his free hand toward Todd, eyes flicking down to the chain around his neck. "Jason," he said evenly, voice deep but smooth, "and I see you're military." "So was I." Todd, cautious, shook the hand. Jason's grip was firm, professional, something in it felt familiar, even trustworthy, though the suit screamed otherwise. Jason glanced back toward the broken window Devon had thrown himself through, then at the group. "We intercepted a signal from one of our spotters," he explained, nodding toward the trail Devon had left. "That rat's been fucking with our camp's robbing, trying to kill my men. We came to cut him off." The masked man cracked his knuckles, still looming over Knife's body like a disappointed executioner. Todd's jaw clenched as he looked from Jason's steady composure to the grinning psycho beside him, then back to the smashed open door where Devon had vanished. Their night had just gone from bad to worse. The air was still thick with the smell of gunpowder and damp mildew from the half-collapsed store, the silence broken only by the steady drip of water through a cracked ceiling tile. Knife's body lay twisted near the back, his face pale, the puddle beneath him already turning cold. The man in the hockey mask stood over him, shaking his head like a disappointed teacher. "Damn shame," he muttered, his voice a gravelly rumble. "Expected more from the puny one." Todd kept his rifle angled low, but ready, his pulse steady despite the tension in the room. Ed, leaning on a shelf stacked with dust-caked cans, raised an eyebrow and said nothing, his eyes flicking from the hockey mask to the man in the sharp, too-clean suit. The suited man stepped forward, the dim light catching on the gold engravings of his lever-action rifle. Up close, the craftsmanship was impossible to ignore, elegant swirls carved into the metal, the kind of piece that didn't belong in a world that had already ended. He extended a gloved hand toward Todd. "Name's Jason," he said, his voice calm, steady. His eyes dropped to the dog tag hanging from Todd's chest, and his expression softened just a little. "Military." Todd gave the smallest nod, gripping his hand. "Was." Jason's grip was firm, unshaken. "Same. Army. We run with a group now, veterans and folks who took survival seriously long before the world went to hell. Discipline, training, order. We're not here to make it worse, we're here to hold back the tide." Todd studied him for a long moment, then exhaled through his nose. "We're not out here for trouble. We came for medicine. Got a man back at camp, lost his arm. Infections setting in. Now." He jerked his head toward the open back door, where Devon had vanished with their vehicle. "Now we don't even have a way home." Jason didn't hesitate. He glanced toward the man in the hockey mask, who gave a single nod like they already come to the same conclusion. Then he looked back at Todd. "You need meds. You need a ride. We've got both covered. There's a spare vehicle up the road, kept it stashed for when things go wrong. Ain't pretty, but it'll get you where you're going, and will help you get what you came for." The hockey mask man shifted his grip on the AK, resting the drum mag against his hip. Better than dying in a rat hole with no plan. Todd glanced at Ed. Ed gave a slow shrug, the kind that said, "Better than nothing." Todd finally nodded. "All right, show us." The moment sealed itself like a handshake, quiet and heavy. For the first time that day, despite Devin's betrayal and the loss of their ride, the path forward didn't feel like a dead end. It felt like the start of something bigger, though whether it would save them or swallow them whole was yet to be seen.